everybody, I'm Ebony. This is Ebonee's Creativity. Thank you so much for joining me here on my channel. Today's video should be a part 2 of the flip that I did in my last video. However, that didn't really get that much engagement, so I'm not sure if you weren't interested in it or if you just didn't see it. If you have not seen it, leave me a comment on the previous video and let me know if you like it and if you want a part 2 to it. However, since it didn't get that much engagement, I'm just going to move on to my next series, which is a series of videos where I'll be doing some projects inside my own home. I've been in my house about 8 years now, and there's some things that I've been wanting to change, but I've just never gotten around to it because I'm always taking client projects. So I put my client projects on hold just for about 2 weeks because I've got some more on the horizon, but I'm just trying to take care of my own stuff while I have the energy to do it and while it's fresh on my mind what I want to do. So I'm going to be delving into some projects here in my own home. So the first one that I'm going to be attacking is my fireplace. I've already painted my entire living room black, but the fireplace never really sat right with me. I don't like how whoever owned this home previously went through and covered up all the trim and everything that I think is fabulous about this house with white paint. So I'm just going to kind of suit this to fit my mid-century modern style. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not already, please subscribe to my channel. Thumbs up the video if you enjoy it. Leave a comment, let me know. I don't know if you guys like videos or not unless you comment or like or subscribe even. Do something to let me know. You can just leave a smiley face, a thumbs up, whatever. Just let me know that you saw this video and that you like it and that you want me to continue videos in this series. Or you can leave me a comment and let me know what kind of videos you like because I'm tired of trying to guess. All right, thank you so much for watching. Let's hop right on into this project. So here is how my mantle looks. And I hate these corbels. I hope I can figure out how to remove them. There's one on both sides. And this used to be solid white, but I had a hook here, like one of these here. And when I went to remove it for my Christmas mantle, it took off the paint. And I much prefer the wood color because it matches my floors. So I don't really like how they've stripped all the original character out of this house with a big can of white paint. I'm going to try to bring some of it back. I'm going to remove these and then I'm going to strip the mantle. Hopefully I don't have to restain it. If you look right here, you can see that what's underneath looks to be pretty solid. So hopefully I can salvage it and not have to restain it. But I've got a lot of work cut out for me. So again, here is how this looks now. And I'm also going to do something about all those cords. And I think I may paint this white part black because I don't really like it. But we'll see. Let me just see how much of this paint I can remove. My first step is going to be to remove everything that is currently on the mantle and on the hearth. At this point, I still have hope that I can use this paint scraper and this scraper and remove the paint without having to sand. As you can see, these Dollar Tree hooks aren't nothing to play with. They're pretty good quality because I'm having such a difficult time removing it. And this is how I got the paint ripped off the first time I was using these. So I'm starting out with the paint scraper and it's working fairly well. It's not doing as great as I had hoped because the white paint does look like it's peeling. So I thought it would just kind of peel off easily. But as you can see, I'm having to put a little bit of effort behind this and I'm slowly losing hope that I'm going to be able to just scrape the paint off. So I switched to this scraper, hoping that things would improve because the blade is sharper. And you can just see it barely is taking it off layer by layer. It's not really doing anything. So then I decided to put some oomph into it and use both hands and really dig deep to try to get this. But at this point, my hope is really dwindling. So I'm switching back and forth, just trying to see the best way I can get this paint off. But I'm starting to gouge the wood. And so I'm just like, okay, at this point, I'm going to have to give up. Otherwise, I'll be here for the rest of my life scraping this off. So after about an hour and a half of breaking a sweat and hurting my arm, I'm going to just go ahead and switch to this stripper. I'm applying a liberal amount and then I'm going to go ahead and spread it out with a foam brush. I do have citrus strip, which is more friendly as far as the scent and toxins and all of that good jazz. But when I tested it on a little corner, it just wasn't doing what this was doing. And I did not want this to be an all week thing. So I'm really just trying to get this done as quick as possible. But I do have my windows open for ventilation and a couple of fans going. There's always a few of you who get on me about not using proper health and safety equipment. I know. I should be wearing gloves. You'll see me put them on later in the video. But I like this stripper because not only does it work well, but when I'm on the vertical surfaces, like the edges, I don't have to worry about making a big mess on the floor because this is like a gel kind of formula and it won't be too drippy. See, this has only been about 10 minutes and already this is starting to bubble, so that's why I really like this stripper. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start scraping. And as you can see, it's coming off pretty nicely. And I did test this paint for lead. Somebody would probably say that as well. This is not lead paint. I believe that this may have been done right before the house was sold to me to try to modernize the house by just covering up everything with white paint because it's not on really well and it's different from the paint that I stripped out of the kitchen windowsills and trim. So I think this may have been wood up until right before I bought the house because it's a fresh paint compared to what was in other areas that I have stripped. I'm doing about half of this at a time so that my stripper won't dry out because it's very hot and I have the windows open, like I said, to ventilate. So here is my current progress. So I repeated the same steps on the other half where I just spread out the stripper and scraped. And then here is how everything ended up looking at the conclusion of my first day working on this. Proper safety equipment and also did not protect the floor because like I said, I was expecting more of like a dry, dusty paint to be coming off of here because I wasn't intending to use the stripper. So from the onset, I just didn't do it and then I didn't think about it until afterwards. So luckily, that stripper allowed me to do this without making a big mess and I was just able to vacuum up most of what was down there. Now I'm going in with mineral spirits and I'm going to apply this liberally and then wipe it down with some steel wool. And this will help the stripper to stop the stripping process. I think I've gotten about all I'm going to get with the stripper at this point. So now I know for sure I'm going to have to end up sanding, which I wanted to avoid so I didn't make a big mess inside, but it is what it is. For years now, these corbels have been getting on my nerves and I'm so tired of looking at them because I think they are very ugly. So I'm going to go ahead and use my hammer and a screwdriver and just pop them off. I wasn't sure how they were on. Luckily, it was just on with some adhesive and caulked around it. So once I broke the caulk, I was able to kind of pry it off. And I was very happy at this point because I think these things are so ugly. This first one took me a lot longer to remove than the second one just because I wasn't sure how it was attached and I didn't want to damage the bricks. So I decided to take a little bit slow and gentle with this first one. But once I got the first one off, the second one, I just did a couple taps and I knew how it was on, so it was easy for me to get it off and it just popped right off. I think I was a little too liberal with that first stripper that I had because I ran out. So I remembered that I had this smart strip. It was expensive and it did not work as well as I thought it would, but since I had it on hand, I decided to go ahead and try to use it. And spoiler alert, I ain't have time for this. I'm trying to finish. At this point, I've got to bend over to do the underside of the mantle, and I ain't have time for that. So I ended up switching back. I had to go and purchase some more of the stripper I was using before, and I did do that because this stripper wasn't really helping me. Just look at the difference here versus when I switch back to this stripper, how much easier it's coming off now. At this point, I'm going to have to sand because unfortunately the finish was not smooth enough after using the stripper to remove the paint. So I used this big green roll of paper that I have to cover up my couch and to try to keep some of the dust contained. And here is where we are as far as how the mantle looks. So as you see, it's going to have to get sanded because it's in kind of rough condition. I was so bummed that I had to end up sanding this, but I guess it is what it is. So to try to keep the dust contained, I'm using my sander with my right hand and my vacuum with my left hand just to do as much as I can to contain the dust. So I started out with a 60 grit sandpaper, and you can see what a big difference that makes in a short span of time. There are going to be some white flecks that are deeply ingrained in the wood that I could not get out. So I just decided it's a 100-year-old house. Everything's not going to be perfect. Just let it be. So I did leave some of that. But for the most part, after gunking up a whole bunch of sheets of sandpaper, everything came out really well. And I went over the whole thing with the 60 grit, and then I came back with the 220 grit. There's still a little bit of paint remnants under the bottom. I'm just going to leave it and stop at this point because it's way too dusty in my house and you can't see this unless you like bend over to intentionally look under, which I don't think anybody will do. Now I'm just trying to clean up some of this dust because it was everywhere, literally everywhere. Now that everything is looking great, I am going to use this pre-stain to condition the wood before I apply my stain. So you just apply a nice generous coat of this all over, and then you wipe off the excess after a few minutes, and then you can stain after that. After wiping off the excess wood conditioner, I went in with this stain in the color English Chestnut, which is the perfect match to my floors. And I went ahead and applied one coat. It's very hot in my house on this day. The window's still open for ventilation, but the stain is kind of like drying as I'm doing it. So there was not much excess for me to wipe off after I finished my first coat of stain. It was drying down perfectly and the color matched my floors perfectly. So I did one coat and let that be that. Here's how everything looked after just a few minutes of having applied the stain. And as you can see, the color payoff is really good. Everything looks nice and even. There are those paint flecks in there that I was talking about earlier, but old things have imperfections, just like new things. So I'm just going to leave it. I don't want to strip any more character from this mantle. Now that my stain has dried, I'm going to go in with this wipe-on poly to protect it. And I'm just going to pour some on like a small puddle. And I'm just going to apply this with a sharp rag in this direction of the wood grain, just the same way that I applied the conditioner and the stain. I went back and forth in my head about whether or not to paint the bricks, but I just decided to go for it. It's just paint and I can always change it back if I feel so inclined. So I'm using the color Dark Secret by Bayer, and I'm going to just go ahead and paint over all this white brick and make it black just like the rest of the room. After doing all that work on the mantle, I just decided that I wanted that to be the star of the show. So hopefully by painting the bricks black, it'll kind of just blend in with the rest of the room and the mantle will stand out even more. There was absolutely no way I was risking getting paint on this mantle, so I went ahead and hand painted this little white area that I couldn't reach with the roller. Then I just decided to fully go for it, so I also decided to paint this towel area on the bottom black as well. That took 2 coats of paint, but the brick only took 1 coat of paint. This is a public service announcement. Do not listen to people in Lowe's who act like they know what they're talking about, because they will steer you wrong sometimes. If you have a gut feeling, just go with it. I went there looking for black caulk. There was no black caulk to be found. So a guy talked me into getting black silicone, which I have never used before. I've used caulk and I'm comfortable with that, but silicone, I didn't know what to expect. But he convinced me that it was the same thing and started talking to me like I was dumb and making me feel like, okay, maybe he knows a little bit more than me. So I got this silicone home and I just started making a big, huge mess. And it took me a while to get the hang of it. To me, silicone is not like caulk. You can put your experiences in the comments section below, but I should have stayed on my hunt for caulk because this was a hot mess. You see, it was clumping and then it was loose and then it wasn't coming out. And it was just a hot mess. And I ended up having to go over it several times before it dried to try to wipe it and get some kind of a good line, and it was just getting on the wall. It was just getting on my nerves. So don't be listening to people who tell you stuff, because you have to go with what you feel comfortable with. And caulk is better than silicone for this application, in my opinion. There is no outlet behind my TV, unfortunately, so these cords have also been getting on my nerves for years. So I bought this cable management system from Amazon. I ordered it in black. It came in white, so I ended up having to paint that too. I should have painted it before I put it up, but hindsight is definitely 2020, and I made this part much more difficult than I had to, but I did get it painted, and I don't really like it that much, but it looks better than having the cords everywhere, so I'm just going to leave it. Just when I thought I was done with this mantle and I was ready to put my decorations back up, something kept telling me to do more. So I decided that I was going to DIY a gallery rail. I watched a short on YouTube. I cannot recall the channel name, but I will post the short that I watched in the description box below, because I do not steal from other content creators like what they do to me. But anyway, that was a side note. I took a cheap chest set from Amazon and I made pieces according to how I needed them to be. So this would be like a corner piece, so it has 2 sides drilled out. This would be an end piece, so it only has 1 side drilled in. And this would be another end piece with only 1 side drilled in. And then this would be a connector piece, so it goes all the way through so that 2 pieces of my dowel can connect. And because my holes are 1/4 inch, my dowels are also 1/4 inch, and I'm just using my miter shears to cut the dowel pieces. So here's my layout, and you can kind of see what I mean. Some pieces needed to be corners. This would be a connector piece in the middle, and then here's another corner piece, and then another end piece. After I was sure my layout looked good, I went ahead and spray painted all those pieces black. And then I came back in with 3 different gold spray paints, because the colors are all slightly different. Even though 2 of them are by Rust-Oleum, the colors are really different. My goal with this method is to make sure that each color can shine through, and it really gives a beautiful finish. I've done this before, that's how I know. But if you only have one color, you can do one color, that's fine. But I wanted kind of an antique brass look, and I found that layering several different golds will give me that. Here you can see that technique just added so much dimension, and I'm in love with this finish. I think it looks great. And without further ado, here are some final finished images. This is just much more in line with what my actual style is. So I'm glad I was able to achieve this look. I think it is more cohesive with the other things in the room. You can leave a comment and let me know what you think. As far as the decor, I just reused the decor that I already have because I kind of like it. I'm thinking that I'll find a different screen. The black is kind of blending in a little bit too much, but otherwise, I think everything looks pretty good. I just popped on a picture of my fur babies and 2 little candles that I had not been able to display. Those tail candles, I think they came from Pottery Barn. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they came from Pottery Barn. But otherwise, everything is pretty much the same. I think the rail just added a little kick that I really like. And yeah, here is how everything looks. Leave me a comment and let me know if you enjoyed the video, what you think about the final finished product, if you liked it better before. Just tell me your general thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and I will talk to you all in my next flip. Bye guys. If you have the time, please select another one of my videos to watch from the choices on the screen or in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching.